Hello folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are in the Python Basics for Beginner series, and today's topic is for loops in control flow statements. So for loop iterates over a sequence or a range of elements. The number of iterations is determined before entering the loop. So what does this mean? We will take an example and understand the same. So if I want to print 1 to 10 numbers as I did for while loop earlier using for loop, how do I do it? As we saw in the definition, for loop will iterate on the sequence or a range of elements. To print 1 to 10 numbers, we will understand what is a range. Suppose if I write range of something, range of say 1 comma 10, then it would print 1 to 9 numbers. The 10, whatever you mention here, 10, 11, that number will be excluded. If you don't mention anything, if you mention only range 10, then it will consider the numbering from 0, not from 1. By default, it will take it from 0. And the increment would be in each iteration by 1. Okay, if you want to specify the increment to be more than 1, then we can specify 2 or 3, whatever we want. Okay, and that is nothing but called as a step size. So when I write a program, I will write for I in range is a function, then from where to where we want to print 0 comma say 11, sorry, it's 1 to 10, so 1 to 11 colon, this is the syntax for loop, and inside for loop what we want to do, we want to print, so print I. So what will happen every time, it will check, okay, for I is in range until and unless this is true. For say first number is 1, because we will start from 1, here initialization updation will be done in this same statement. In while loop, we used to initialize I to 1. Initialize carried out here. You can see here, we mentioned the starting range here. And there is updation that happens after this 11. There is a hidden one here, which will put it later, which I will put it later and show it to you. However, without this also, the updation occurs by 1 in every iteration. So if I print this, and just if I try to print this, that is, if I try to run this program, let's see what's the output that we get. So here we go, guys. We got the output from 1 to 10 numbers. Now, if I put 1 over here, comma 1. Let's see if there are any changes to the output. It will not change any output because by default it increments by 1. You don't need to mention 1 over here. But for the understanding purpose, I have just shown that in every iteration, the increment will happen by 1, and initialization was done for I at 1. Okay, so if you don't mention anything, if you just mention 11, right, if you don't initialize, by default initialization is from 0, so now you will get the output from 0 to 10. Okay, because you did not mention that you want to start from 1. And if we want that only, we want to print only alternative numbers, then we will mention here 1 comma, if we want from 1, we can mention 1 comma, and the step size would be 2. This third parameter is called a step size. So step size would be 2, and each time the increment will be by 2. So you will get the output 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. The range is still 11. 11 is excluded. So 9 plus 2 would be 11, but 11 is excluded. That's why the output is still 9. Okay. Similarly, if you are thrown a variation of this problem, that print reverse of number, I mean reverse of digits, reverse order of digits, not reverse order of digits from 10 to 1. Then how would you print this? We'll have to just make small changes. For I Now the initialization would be different. Initialize where from where we want the numbers to be printed from 10 to where to 1. So we will mention the range as 0, and every time it should decrement by 1. In every iteration the number should decrement by 1, and we want to print the number. So in for as well, there is initialization, then there is a condition to be checked, and there is a update. The only difference is we can write this in one line, wherein in while we used to initialize and update in a separate line. We will see the main difference between the while and for, but let's first print this output. So this output comes to 10, 9, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So both in for loop and while loop, you need to understand that from where you want to initialize, whatever you want to print it the output, from where you want to initialize, by what you need to update, and what condition need to be checked. These three things, if you understand, there is no difficulty in executing for loops and while loops. So understand the problem first, and accordingly fill in the fill in the programming aspects such as initialization, updation, and the condition, and then in that for loop or while loop, whatever the task. Now here the task was to print I. Now this is about the range. Now let's talk about sequence. We haven't studied a lot of sequences till now, but we have studied string. So what is a string? String is nothing but sequence of characters. So what we would do, we would apply for loop on any string for understanding. Now let's see. Suppose I will take my name. I define for loop like this: for I in string. So whatever string. Suppose I define my name. We shall print I. So this is the way you write a for loop for a sequence straight away. No need to mention any range. No need to mention the increment. It just does it automatically. The for loop iterates over each and every element of the string Vishal and displays it to you one by one. In the first iteration, it took V. In the second iteration, it took I. In the third iteration, it took S, then H, then A, and then L. So one by one, it just printed. So this is the way you apply for loop on a sequence. Now the key part is that you may ask, what is the difference between for loop and while loop? So the working iterations or a little bit difference in the syntax, but the main difference is that in for loop, if you could have seen the this text earlier, in for loop what happens is it is ideal to use for loop in situation where you already know the number of iterations before entering the loop. Means you know where the endpoint is. Like we were printing 1 to 10 numbers, so we know that okay, 10 is the last number before entering the loop. Okay, and in while loop we are not aware of the number of iterations that are going to happen, because if you remember the locker example that I explained you in earlier video, I mentioned that whenever the condition will get false, only then the while loop will stop executing. That means in that lock example, whenever that lock matched, I had taken the forgotten lock is 777, and have taken the example of a three-digit lock. The three-digit lock will have combinations from 000 to 999. So there's a thousand combinations. So before entering the while loop, it doesn't know what is the lock. It is 777, it is 888, it is whatever. So no one is aware when the loop is going to stop before entering the loop. Okay, once it encounters 777 and it stops, that is a different story. But before entering, we did not know when the while loop is going to stop and come out, and the control will come out, and the result will be displayed. So whenever the condition, whenever the situation is like you are not aware before entering the loop or before solving the problem, you are not aware where you want to stop or how many iterations are required. In that cases, while loop is recommended. And wherever you are aware that okay, this is the finite range of iterations, or this is the range given to me, or this is the sequence given to me, over there you can use for loops. So that's it on the basic while loop and the for loop. In next video, we will deep dive into while loop using nested loops. So see you in the next video. Thank you.